On this week's show, discussing the image of construction with Fred Mills from the B1M. In this week's news, videos, and more. All right, everybody's going to notice that we are down a few faces. This is a special episode. Fred Mills and I are going to sit down after a crazy season of being on the road and talk the image of construction. Fred, thank you so much for coming on the show and sitting down with me.
You're welcome, Jeff. It's good to be here. I think you might need to lower your expectations a bit, but we'll see how we go.
Hey, that's all right. I can have the inflated expectation world. It's been a long time coming, man. I appreciate you coming on, and you've done a lot for the industry. I've watched your career, so I'm going to be excited for us to get into talking about that. Before we get into talking about that, we have to get into the cause of the show. Stay tuned for our new partner, and remember to save the date for the second National Suicide Prevention and Mental Health Summit for the construction industry in Kansas City, Missouri on March 27th to 29th, 2023. Go to www.constructionworkingminds.org/summit. If you need something now, text 988 or call from your mobile phone for immediate help, or visit preventconstructionsuicide.com for resources. A little announcement, folks. We're back on YouTube. That's right. The Contech Crew is making a run back to YouTube. So check our channel out at youtube.com/@thecontechcrew. Before we get started with our guest interview, I spoke with Robert Shear, VP of Strategy and Business Development at OpenSpace, about how they can give you a photographic memory of your job site with 360 images. I'm here with Robert Shear, VP of Strategy and Business Development for OpenSpace. Robert, tell us a little bit about what is OpenSpace.
OpenSpace is a 360 job site capture, review, and tracking tool. Think of it as an up-to-the-minute Google Street View of your project that people can view anywhere, anytime. Some people also refer to it as like total project recall, right? So what if you could have a photographic memory for all your projects for all time in case something came up in the future? So that's really what it is. How do you use it? Let me grab my camera. You simply just attach a 360 camera to your hard hat, open our app on your phone, open the floor plan, tap where you are and walk. We take care of the rest. So as you walk, we take 2 360 images per second. You come back, upload them to the cloud, and we process that all together, stitch them together, pin all those images to your plans, and deliver it back to you as a navigable 360 environment for everyone to use and share. And typically we deliver it back to you in like 30 to 60 minutes.
All right, and we're back now to get to the meat of the interview. So, Fred, you started in construction. So I want for people who don't know who you are, which I'm always surprised because I've been a big fan since the beginning, and the B1M's been an incredible resource. Talk a little bit about your history and how you got here.
Yeah, definitely. So when I was very young, I've always kind of loved building stuff. I've always loved playing with Lego. I've always loved building stuff since I was very young. And as I grew up, I kind of pursued that passion. I pursued it through school, pursued it through university, and then came out, as college, as you guys would say, and then came out and started working for a main contractor, general contractor, as a design manager, but kind of really realized that the industry that I'd loved my whole life and that I'd wanted to come into my whole life was incredibly misunderstood. My friends and family thought I'd gone off to become a builder laying, bricks on a construction site somewhere, because they sort of really didn't get why I'd gone into construction or what it was about or the impact I was having. And I saw a really big contrast between how people saw the industry and what was actually happening in the industry every single day. And I wanted to do something about that. I wanted to make the industry better understood. Started putting some videos on YouTube in my spare time, kind of explaining parts of the industry, breaking things down. And the short story is that kind of steadily took off. I went full-time for my day job in 2015 and then chipped away. And from about 2017, 2018 onwards, the B1M YouTube channel massively took off. And we've now got multiple channels across a media company, multiple platforms across our media company, 17 people employed, 25 million people watching each month. And it's been it's gone pretty well from going from a spare room to where it is now. It's been awesome.
Yeah, from a couple of videos off your phone probably to this, that's a nice run.
Yeah, it was 2012 as well. So it's been 10 years now, 2022. My phone back then wasn't as good as today's phone, so that's how long ago it was. But yeah, no, it was. I remember one of the first ones I did was really. I didn't really care too much about the production quality. I just kind of spoke from the heart about what I thought the industry should be doing and what it could be. And I uploaded it and went to bed. And I came down the next morning and my phone had just exploded with notifications and comments and feedback and people sharing it right across all these, across the industry. Really, it was crazy. And that went on for that whole day. And that was the first taste I had of the power of YouTube, of the power of, I think it got 1,000 views, which for me at the time was like, whoa, 1,000 views. This is big. And that was the first taste I got of the power of YouTube. And that's when I really understood that being yourself, being genuine, sharing your passion is highly relatable and engaging to people. And if you do that, you can reach a lot of people in a very different way to how the conventional media in construction does. So, yeah.
That's core because that comes across, and it's what we hear consistently is it's all about where it's coming from, the honesty. You truly are passionate about it changing. I can see it in everything. I can even see, and I've been a fan since way back when I came into the industry. Like I said, those early videos, a lot of that introduced me to what the industry was, explain things. I came from outside. I needed that kind of connection, but it was your honesty and coming from the heart that always spoke to me on this side. It was why I wanted to continue to consume it. Even as you've grown, you've maintained that. I think that's still at the core of the B1M.
Yeah, it is. And you have to, there's a lot of this people don't see is there's a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours. There's been a lot of pushing behind the scenes to get what is a very conservative industry to embrace and follow a construction YouTube channel, which is very, very different, not really been done before. And that's the case with any business, with any startup business. It is a hard graft. And the fact is you have to be passionate about it. You have to love it in order to stick with it and keep pushing forward no matter what it takes. I think if you weren't passionate about it, if you didn't really care, if your heart wasn't really in it, you'd quit and give up a lot sooner. I've always been quite that thing about me loving construction is it goes right to my core. It is genuinely me. I'm through and through conviction. That is who I am. It's what I love. And it's funny, when I was younger, I was almost a bit shy about that and a bit shy about being too out there with it. But what I've learned as I've got older is that the more out there I am, the more people seem to agree with me and the more it resonates with people. And that's built a level of self-confidence in me, which I've then fed back into my determination and my passion and how I present it to the world, because, you're not really sure, especially when you're growing up, how the rest of the world's going to take you, if they're going to react to stuff the right way. You just don't know if you're going to be accepted. And I wasn't a widely accepted person. I wasn't a widely popular person when I was a kid. So to have that, have my passion resonate with people, have it fed back to me, it's built a self-confidence in me. I think I'm a much more confident person now than I was 10 years ago when I started.
Well, you hit on a couple of things that I want to pull the mask back off, so to speak, and pull the veil back. There is this belief from people that, it's YouTube, it's easy, you get a couple cameras and you just go out there, and they don't realize the grind that it takes. I mean, you just forayed into a new podcast, and everybody wants to start a podcast, and then I think they get involved and you realize this is a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. And I've had people say to me sometimes, it's just sticking videos on YouTube, isn't it? And sometimes I long for it to be just sticking videos on YouTube, but it's not. It's nowhere near as simple as that. There is a ridiculous amount of work that goes in, I think. And it depends on what kind of YouTubing you're doing, because there are gamers who are just like live streaming themselves playing a game. There's people just vlogging their day that's inherently simpler to edit. The education YouTube space, where you are cutting together mini documentaries, you've got to get your facts right, you've got to get your sources right, you've got to get graphics, music, mixing, the explanation of what you're talking about across really clearly, it takes hours and hours and hours and hours to get it right. And there's so much other stuff that goes with this. There's the legal side, there's the accounting side, there's the full business side. It's a lot of work. I sometimes joke to the team that all we're trying to do here is put a video on YouTube, guys. Come on, it shouldn't be this difficult. But sometimes the universe just makes it a bit tough.
Yeah, well, and that first one was just putting a video on YouTube. It just has a tendency to escalate from there, which is great. I wanna take you back to that image, because we both agree on the image of construction and the damage that it's doing. And I think it's contributing to real tangible problems that our industry is experiencing right now. Talk about what it was then, and maybe some of the thoughts. We can go back and forth on some of the things we think we need to do as an industry.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, and I'm taking you back to when I was younger for a reason, but I always saw construction and building things as a way of enabling other stuff to happen. So whether it was a pillow fort so I could have a fight with my siblings, or a Lego city under my bed so I could amuse myself for the morning, or a den in my garden so that I could get my water pistol up over the garden fence and shoot my neighbours in a nice way. I always just understood that building stuff enabled you to do something else. And that perception came with me into the industry. And whenever I worked on projects, I was always struck by the final impact of what we were doing or what the industry was doing, whether that was a hospital or a schools program or a housing program or anything like that. And I think what was shocking to me is that when I spoke to my friends and family, as I said, they were like, "Oh, you must be cold this week because you've been out on a construction site building. You're putting up drywall and laying bricks." And it's like, no, there's that. You just completely misunderstood the industry. And by the way, it's a hell of a lot more than that. There's loads of stuff that goes into this. It has a huge fundamental impact on every aspect of our lives. And then you get some of the other stereotypes around it being male-dominated, and particularly white male-dominated. You get some of the laddish culture, we call it a stag do in the UK, like a bachelor party type culture in the US, I guess. And that breeds a lot of it. It perpetuates those stereotypes. It puts certain people off coming into the industry. It gives the industry a bad rap. And when you throw in the fact that the mainstream media tend to only cover things when they go wrong, projects when they're late or over budget, you get this kind of cocktail of ingredients. And it's no wonder the world sees the construction as they do, because that's what they've come to believe and been served over the years. And to change that is a long-term, deep thing.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of us to do. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, just from coming in as an outsider 10 years ago to the industry, it completely changed my mind. I took the job because I needed a job. I found an industry. I found a passion. I found people who are, I came from a masonry and a concrete contractor, and like people putting hard things in, and all of the hours of preparation and planning and things that went in that I just never knew were there. I never respected the things that I take for granted. I was at a talk not too long ago, and Dustin Burns said, "How many of you slept in your beds last night and worried about if the floor was going to fall through?" Thank you, construction. And it's like, man, how many people drive down a road and you only complain about a road when it's closed for construction or you're bouncing around. And you're right, we only cover our large failures. How many bridges have been switched out overnight that, they don't make the news? If we do our jobs right, it's kind of like, technology from my perspective. If people don't notice, it means we're doing it incredibly well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So in doing this and in starting to cover it, starting to grow, what are some of the areas you're focusing on highlighting to help change it? No one company, no one group, no one video is going to change this. It takes all of us doing it. But you've particularly grown in how, the B1M is focusing. How have you focused on it?
It's a good question. So a lot of the industry coverage tends to be quite either inward looking, so it's written by architects for architects or by engineers for engineers, or it's about contractor news or construction news about who's made what profit margin or who's moved to what company. And that's all good, useful trade press. But I think it makes the industry quite inaccessible for the rest of the world. And what we've always tried to do is make what construction does relatable to the mainstream, to people walking down the street in any city, anywhere on this planet, and to try and talk in their terms and come at it from their point of view and put it into their lives in a way that they can see, actually, this story here is impacting my life, my city, my future somehow, my economy somehow, the social fabric of my city somehow. I then understand what construction is. I think going out kind of quite plainly and saying, we need more people to come into construction. Did you know it's a great industry? You could do this job, this job, this job. It's too dry for people. It's not engaging enough people. We're in this battle for people's attention right now. There's so much noise out there. There's social media. There's 24-hour rolling news. There's advertising everywhere you go. It's an assault on the senses to leave your house nowadays. And construction has to compete in that space. We have to put the best stories front and center. We have to go to the platforms that billions of people are using every day, go to where they are with stories that are compelling and exciting to them, and give them a reason. Start where they are, give them a reason to come and learn more about this industry. And we find people will watch content or engage and consume with content that they didn't even know was about construction. They're just enjoying it. And that's how you more subtly change people's perceptions on a wider level, in my view. You can't just, as I said, go out there and say, hey, come along to a careers fair, or please pick up this construction magazine and open it, because they're not going to do that. So the kind of current, the running theme through all of our work is that pitching it to the mainstream. Would our parents watch this? Would our family and friends watch this? How would I talk if I was explaining this to someone down a bar, down a pub? And do it that way. Don't go into some crazy engineering speak. Make it clear, keep it nice and simple. And we throw in some of the biggest, most impactful projects, whether they are impacting cities or wider society. So mega projects, infrastructure, skyscrapers, housing. Sustainability is a really big thing for us. Sustainability and, construction has a huge impact on climate change. 40% of all greenhouse gas emissions come from our buildings. So, if we want to deal with climate change, you want to make the world a greener, a more sustainable place, you've got to do that through the construction industry. And we've dedicated a whole channel to that now, which I'm really, really proud of. So, they're the topics and the tactics. Big reveal.
The big reveal. Well, it's been as a somebody who's listened for a long time, I've seen it morph and change. I was wondering where you would go with that. And, in the beginning, it was just shining lights on things and kind of, it was somewhat of just posting a video to YouTube, and then it was telling a little bit more. And then it became particularly somewhere shifted to this really focused storytelling. And I knew right then, I'm like, ooh, I can grasp onto this. You even took educational content and told a story so that, I could personally connect with it and learn from it. I didn't feel overwhelmed. We were talking pre-show. I learned about BIM from the B1M. There was some videos and no one could explain it in English in a way that I wanted to watch more than 5 minutes of it, because it was freaking basically Revit. And I was like, no, I can't do this. And then, factory OS, what was prefabrication? What was modular? What is the future of construction? And just saying it the way I did right there probably makes anybody listening, that they don't understand it. It is our speak. But that episode made it there. It was really evident in the HS2 video that you've moved into a journalistic approach. Was that a conscious move? Is that something you think can add on to connecting with more people?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's a few reasons for that. One is there's a level of complexity to these projects, a level of nuance to these projects I think is really important to dig into and get out there. And I think for a while, you're right, we did do, when we were first starting out, when we were a more junior outfit with a smaller team and fewer resources, it was much more, here's a project, here's the news, here's why it's happening, here's what it's about. But there wasn't that deeper depth to really understand why these projects come about and just how much of an impact they really have on a much wider aspect of our societies than we realize. And that's where we started to get into this more journalistic approach. We hired video journalists. We've had people join our team from the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, BBC, ITV, the big channels in the UK. We've really tried to bring up those. We've completely recast our editorial standards, our values, editorial integrity, and really focused on balance, all the stuff that goes in there about, detailed right to reply, sourcing, fact checking. And that's been a multi-year project for us. But I think from sort of 2020, 21 onwards, it's been really landing for us and really successful. The Billionaires Row piece we did, was a real hard look at how extreme wealth is starting to reshape architecture in New York. HS2 is a fantastic rail project, but there's a huge amount of debate around the amount of money it's costing and who signed it off and best use of taxpayers' money. And I think it goes back to trying to get construction into that wider audience again. This isn't just a railway being built up the heart of Britain. It's £100 billion worth of our money being built to boost our economy and connect people in our north with our major capital in the south. And when you put it in those terms, when you go to that level and depth with it, people suddenly connect and understand it a lot more than they did before. And as with construction architecture, it's right there in front of you most of the time, in your city, on your street, in your house. And when you start explaining it to people and they start to click with it, they get it. I've always had people say to me, there's quite a kind of a status quo media establishment in construction. And I've had a couple of people say to me that, it's just YouTube, isn't it? It's not real journalism. And that was probably 2018, 2019. I've had a bee in my bonnet wanting to prove people wrong about that. So hoping we're proving them wrong now.
Job well done, because you are. And you're also giving us an opportunity to show the impact of construction. I think your dedication to telling those stories in a consumable format, but then also having journalistic integrity. We can all be honest, there's a little bit of that lacking in the world right now. And you didn't take a side. You left it out there so we could all make up our own minds, but consume the good facts. And I think you also did something super powerful, is connect construction to the economy. And, you guys did a good job at then talking about it, and we'll get into the podcast in a minute, but then just talking about it on the podcast in a way that it's like, it's 100 billion pounds. That's a lot today. I think the number was like, it's 1,000 pounds per person, and that's a lot of money. But this is generational wealth. This is generational connection. This is generational economy. This takes far longer to realize. And you did a great job of kind of talking about the balance. You didn't take a side, but I really, understood that the growth of the cost had a lot to do with some with inflation, but some with underestimating. There was some foul on the, hey, we should have done a better job. Although I think it was Luke who said you should have walked the line. No, you don't hand somebody a lunch pail and say, walk this line and give me a straight line. But that was funny. But yeah, we could have done more up front, so the numbers were more realistic. We don't do a good job of that. However, there was also that environmental impact. And if you think about just a few years since it started to where we are today, we care so much more about that future. So that, of course, increased price. It increased what was gonna happen on that rail. And I don't even live there, and now I understand it, and I'm like completely drawn in. So kudos to that type of work. It's working, Fred, and it's powerful stuff that we need.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's not a slam dunk, yes, no, good, bad project. Like, it's not a total yes, good idea. It's also not a total bad idea. There is nuance to it. There's grey areas. There's pros and cons every twist and turn, and that's the story I want to get across. What I'm really pleased with HS2 is, even though this might sound a bit crazy, the HS2 protesters hated that video because they thought we were too kind to HS2. And HS2's supporters hated that video because they thought we were too cruel to HS2. So that's a really good sign for me that we've stood it. It's pitched exactly the right place in the middle. Everyone hates it, therefore it's good. That's a good balanced piece of journalism.
It's a great balanced piece of journalism. And just between you and I mean, if you go to the old Howard Stern days, People who loved Howard Stern listened for an average of an hour. People who hated him listened to an average for 3 hours. So being in the center and being hated by both sides gets more ears on it, and more ears on it that are educated by good, reliable journalism style is cool, man. It's a great move. I want to pivot so you've entered our world, and man, did you guys come in with a big old hammer. The world's best construction podcast. What brought you to our realm? And thanks for dropping a target on yourselves for us to continue to shoot at. If we didn't already have enough reason to push, you gave us more.
What you're missing, Jeff, is the British sarcasm. So we just know that it's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke, right?
No, that was not missed. I'm having fun with you. I loved it. We covered it when you did it. I'm trying to join, and maybe the American sarcasm's not making it to you. I freaking appreciate it, man. This is a rising tide lifts all ships. And to have you guys there, to have you in my medium. We just said this. I had fallen off the B1M because you guys create so much content that I wasn't keeping up. You've now put it in a realm I can listen. And you, Luke, and Liam, man, that's a powerful, fun little pub conversation to sit on. And
we've got 3 accents. we've got the Aussie,
3 accents and 3 views,
and the British guy. Yeah, 3 very different views. Yeah, it's. I'll be honest. I've always the shrewd businessman in me has always seen the business case for having a podcast as part of our business, but I've actually always been pretty resistant to it because I know how much time and effort we put into YouTube and getting YouTube right and really cracking the science of it and perfecting our craft. And I know that I know absolutely nothing about podcasting, and it's not my space to be in. And actually, we should kind of focus our very limited resources on our business objectives and what we're trying to do, not go off and distract ourselves with a podcast. So I'd resisted it for a very long time. Enter Luke Bly, who is a fan of the B1M, or had been a fan of the B1M for a while, finished watching us on his TV one day and then had to go and do some washing up or like some DIY in his house and searched through Spotify and Apple for our podcast. Couldn't find it and was like, what the hell's going on here? Why don't these guys have a podcast? Emailed Liam and said, hey, what's going on? I do podcasting. Can we come have a chat about this? And I went for a coffee. So Liam said to me, I've got this guy talking to us about podcasting. Can you come and have a coffee with him? And I'm like, I don't want to do a podcast. I haven't got time to go and have a coffee with someone. Like, no, forget it. Anyway, Liam eventually convinced me. I went for a coffee with Luke. He turned up 10 minutes late because he went to the wrong cafe. And I was just like, oh, this is it. This is just a write-off. There's no way. This guy's a joke. Forget it. And then we met Luke and we hit it off like a house on fire, literally. So we were supposed to meet for an hour. I think we met for 2.5 hours because we got on so well. And then from there, it's just kind of gone and we rolled into a podcast and now it's here. And he's become a really good part of our team. He does all the podcasting work for me, works really hard on it. So I've managed to add it in without taking too much of my my time, which is one of the biggest commodities in the B1M is my diary.
Yeah, man, you run a tough schedule, but you guys have done. You're right. You found a little bit of gold there, and it is a really consumable podcast. I've enjoyed it. I've been binging on it. If you guys aren't binging on his podcast, it is the world's best construction podcast. You can find it on your major platforms, and it's actually, to me, made the B1M more specific for me. I now go after the show. And I know what you're talking about, and it's not like you left me behind, but I can go find what it is you're talking about. It's why I went and found HS2. It's why I went and I have the Billionaires Row on there, and I haven't done enough on that one. You'll hear some more of this today when we hit news because, surprise, we're not really going to do news. We're going to talk. This is all about Fred, all about the B1M today. This is an homage to you guys.
Sounds terrible, Jeff.
I think you've done a great job with it.
Thanks. Well, we're following you. You've paved a path for us in the industry. I've been a Content Crew fan for a very long time, and the work you guys are doing is awesome. We're just trying to do some stuff from a UK perspective. So yeah, it's been. We very much see you as fellow friends, not competitors. Though feel free to stick a target on our back. I understand why.
And that's okay. Everybody likes a good challenge, it sharpens the, I tell this to every software company. They're, a good arms race in software means in the end, the people who are using the software or consuming the media win.
Absolutely.
So
we'll
that's
all
what
get
it's
better.
for.
We'll all get better.
Yeah. Now we could make this a love fest about us, but I want to turn it into a little bit. You've had a front row seat since 2012, covering the industry, covering innovation, covering technology, covering change, covering new factors. So I want to know, like, what are some of the top innovations? And I like that as a blanket, because you've opened me up to Content Crew has always been tech. But, getting outside of our space, innovation is far more than that. So what are some of the things that you've seen since 2012 that maybe surprised you that are here, and some that you were, wow, this should have been commonplace sooner?
So I think, taking it back a step, I think it's the industry's challenges and those tough environments. That's what breeds innovation. It's responses to those challenges that breeds innovation. So I think if you look at where the industry's challenges are, that's where I've been most impressed where innovation is coming from. Now, there's a number of challenges we face. I think the biggest one is the skills crisis. So there's just not enough skilled workers coming into this industry. That's causing all kinds of problems around labor, getting projects delivered on time, getting them delivered efficiently. And that's really, I think, given rise to automation. It's bred a lot of automation, whether that isn't through software or through sometimes robots on construction sites, going from those sort of two extremes, or AI in some places, or streamlining things wherever people can. There's a level of technology automation that's coming in and kind of filling that space now where we're not having enough skilled workers. And I think, automation is obviously a very big phrase, but there's a lot of stuff within that, both from physical robotics on construction sites, and I include in that everything from drones to spot the dog to robotic drills, all these sort of crazy things they have out there now, right through to software that's automated processes that we used to do manually. That's obviously less sexy, less exciting, but it's just as impactful for the industry. I think particularly on the financial side, on the measuring, quantity surveying, document management side as well, that's been hugely impactful. Other thing is the amount of pressure on the construction industry right now to build more buildings in a faster, more efficient, more sustainable way, particularly around housing as urban populations increase. Population globally is falling, but urban populations are rising. There's a transition from rural areas to urban areas. As that's occurring, there's this immense pressure on the industry, as I said, to build more in a better, higher quality, more efficient way. Throw in the skills crisis, this lack of skilled workers, and you have, again, this push for automation, but this push for off-site manufacturing, the rise of off-site manufacturing, doing stuff in a prefabricated way, taking work away from the construction site and moving it indoors into a factory, trying to standardize it as far as possible. That's really impressed me as well. So you have, I guess it's called automation, prefabrication that's born out of those challenges. Underpinning all of that, climate change, and I think some of the innovations around sustainable design, sustainable construction have been really cool as well. Again, going right from material innovations, fossil-free steel, to graphene in concrete, to carbon neutral concrete we've covered over the years, right through to new materials, mass timber, and mass timber being used more widely in construction. And then, all kinds of other stuff around actual buildings once they're built and operational, and how they're operated is, very cool, exciting times.
That was a lot to unpack, and I have to agree.
I was trying
with
to
you.
give you a
Automation
summary.
and robotics. You did a good summary there. Automation and robotics is one of those ones that does scare people a little bit. It's all about augmenting people. Since you talk about the skills gap, it's about bringing people in and augmenting them. If we can take you off of the mundane, off of document management and tracking numbers or measuring a aggregate pile as it changes, and you can use a drone to do that faster and better, then you can focus on, and the people can focus on, the project itself and keeping people safe. I mean, there's a challenge during all of this to keep to keep doing construction faster, bigger, more complex completely, and safer all at the same time. That's a heck of a challenge. And a lot of those tools you're talking about impacted and can impact that process. Interesting on the rural to urban move, and there was all those numbers out there about the population continuing to grow. That has slowed and is actually going the other way. But that doesn't mean the housing crisis is gone. That doesn't mean we can take our eye off the prize. And I'm interested in your path. Where have you seen innovation in that space that's having an impact?
There's some really interesting stuff around standardized construction. So again, modularization, prefabrication. There's some of the standardization techniques that are coming into the housing market. As you say, there is this demand for affordable housing. We need a lot more affordable housing in every country around the world. There's a lot more people who need access to affordable housing, genuinely affordable housing, not just affordable that's got a label on it that's still a ridiculous price for most people. And there's been some really cool innovations with that. I think the problem with standardizing buildings to the same extent that we standardize our cars or our mobile phones is that culturally, people want unique buildings with character. They want identity. They want a sense of being, a sense of place. So you can't really standardize a building to the same extent as other objects in our society without creating kind of soulless neighborhoods or, places that people don't really want to live in that have bigger social impacts in a negative sense. So I think what's been quite clever with prefabrication is where they've been trying to get some of the benefits of mass production, of standardization, by moving much of the building process into factories, into prefabrication assembly lines, but with the ability still to customize those buildings and solutions to each individual site, taste, location that is, inevitable. Every single construction site in the world is different. Every architect is different. Every person buying a home is different. So I think it's been quite clever the way the industry's straddled that. They've gone for this component-based approach where the components of our buildings are standardized as far as possible, but you can still use those components to create something that is to an extent unique and desirable and fits with our cultural desire to have homes and houses that fit with a certain architectural style, wherever that may be in the world. I think that's been, that for me has been one of the most impressive innovations. We've found a way through. We've gone away from just kind of building the same house 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times over. We can now get some of those advantages, get some of those efficiencies at last, while still having houses we actually want to live in.
Yeah, no, you nailed it there. We had to change, and originally prefabrication was just 1,000 of the same thing, and it wasn't going to grow. It wasn't going to reach its true potential because people do use their homes differently, want to experience things differently, want to have a uniqueness, but the componentization of a lot of that is the critical piece. Like, how do we balance it? Because we waste a lot in the field. If we stick build everything and we stick build it perfectly differently every time, well, the first time you do anything is pretty much the worst time you do it. So we have to have some repeatability. We have to have that. And you're right, that change is cool. I mean, I've seen that in like hotels, well, I don't want my hotel bathroom to look like your hotel bathroom. But actually, when I stay in, and I just stayed in an A-loft, so there's a plug for them. I want no matter which room in that I'm in, I want it to look the same. I'm okay, but it's got to be custom. So now you can fabricate that. Now you can have your high-end bathroom, but you're going to do 40 of them because you got 40 hotel rooms. Cool. Now we can save a lot of time. We can save a lot of money. We can do a lot. So I fully agree with you there. Now, anywhere else in the space we've kind of hit anything that's failed that you thought was going to make it? I love to talk about a good failure. Like, I thought this was going to change the world, and well, it didn't.
Oh God, there's a few. I think drones was massively overhyped. There was all this stuff around, like in terms of site surveying, land surveying, GIS, 100%. It's awesome. I get it. I love it. Just for kind of documenting finished buildings and construction sites as a video guy. Obviously, I love drones. But all this stuff around health and safety inspections, swarms of drones building walls, tunnels, skyscrapers. Like, it all just felt a bit far-fetched at the time, and sure enough, 5 years later, it turned out it was all a bit far-fetched. I kind of feel the same at the minute with 3D printing. Controversial, I know. I can hear people now like going, oh, what's he saying? But I struggle to see how we get 3D printing to a level where we are mass producing millions of buildings to the right spec, the right standards, and to the quality, look and feel that people really like. Not to mention the fact that they're all built with concrete at the moment, which, you know, we should be moving away from concrete really because of its impact on the environment. So yeah, I like 3D printing. I want to believe in it. We are, you know, we're covering it. We're doing some stuff on it. We're monitoring where it's going. I get why people are enthused by it. Let's print our buildings. Great idea. We could solve the housing crisis overnight. But it just doesn't click for me. They just look a bit, yeah.
You know, I go back and forth. I think it's dead, and I thought maybe at one point it would help us with, you know, material creation. Like if you were, you know, you needed certain things, you could get them printed out. But I was wrong about that completely. Like that process is too the variable of the part you might need, and then the mixture that you would need to extrusion print that on site. That doesn't work. Like I was wrong, and I remember being at, you know, a big tech conference, and they were 3D printing something behind me, and I was like, not so much. My fail that I thought was going to be huge was blockchain. I have been doing the dang blockchain dance on this show for a long time, and it just under-delivered. I don't know if maybe somewhere down the road we'll see it come back in a more useful fashion, but man, for me, that was the one that, you know, I thought, oh, blockchain's here. We're going to have the immutable ledger. It's going to do all that.
The potential was there. I found it really hard to understand. I don't mind saying that. I think I'd explained to me like 5 or 6 times, and I still didn't quite get it. So
I remember sitting at a dinner like 4 years ago afterwards, having a cocktail and explaining to this group of people how blockchain was going to be the way, and smart contracts, and it was going to be, and I had to go to that group after the whole COVID thing. We were back together, and I was like, I was wrong. It's not there, and I don't quite understand it. So I'm with you. I want to get us into the news, but before I do, I have a couple of things I want to bring up from listening to the show that we definitely didn't talk about beforehand, and I just want to get an understanding. So, what is your fascination with McDonald's? And by the way, Luke and Liam, the Filet-O-Fish, I don't know who eats it, and I don't want to know that you can put cheese on it. And please, why the Filet-O-Fish? Why McDonald's? If anybody doesn't know, Fred, you're going to have to explain. You have a little bit of a love for McDonald's.
No, but this is the thing. Like, I think it's come out as that on the podcast. I think I have McDonald's maybe twice a year. It's just, we ended up having a chat about it because it's got me out of trouble. I travel around quite a bit, and it's always got me out of trouble. No matter where I am, what country, what culture, you know McDonald's is there for you, and you can get in, you can get fed, you can eat pretty cheaply, pretty quickly, and you have a full stomach. So yeah, I don't go that regularly, but it came up a couple of times in the podcast. We had a big debate about the Filet-O-Fish. Why do they make it? I'm with you, Jeff. I think it's horrendous. I've never seen anyone eat it, but as for putting cheese on it, I mean, it's criminal. Absolutely criminal.
Well, and I kind of was having fun there because I was like, man, how does Fred keep that sweet physique and have an obsession with McDonald's? So I thought it came out a little bit as I was interested. I didn't know if, like, you know, you had the McDonald's workout thing going or something.
Yeah, there's no trick, mate. It's not like I'm eating McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and looking like this. I eat it twice a year. That's the thing.
That's awesome, though. But yeah, it did. It was, and I just wanted to tell the boys that I'm with you. The Filet-O-Fish is something that I didn't even know people actually ate it. I thought it was something they had on the menu just to call people out that went there for fish. Where are you gonna go next? Is my question. So you've kind of covered some of this fun stuff. You've got the new podcast. You've got the show. You know, in a couple of years, where is the B1M gonna go?
I think there's nothing really particularly surprising about this. I think we want to go, we want to kind of double down on what we've done so far. We want to lean into what we're good at. We want to continue to push the bar on the quality of the content that we're doing. I think there's a long way to go in that. We've started doing a lot more stuff, traveling now, filming on the ground. We've got a level of access now that we didn't have before. I want to explore that a lot more. I'm really proud of our team and the quality and the standards we're now working to, and I want to again explore that and build that out more. But there's no sort of secret other channel going to be added. I don't see any other mediums popping up right now. I don't see us suddenly pivoting and going into a completely different subjects area. That wouldn't be right. I don't think that's true to me. I love construction. I quite like airplanes. I quite like aviation. And I quite like going to the gym. But other than that, I don't see other areas of my life that I love as much as construction. So there's no kind of like secret ploy that way. The fact is, and I'll be very honest, I think for a lot of businesses this year, people will relate to this. The recession and the inflation crisis has caused us to kind of just slow down a bit. We were being a bit more cautious and a bit less bullish than we would have been before, because we just want to see how things play out. We want to consolidate a bit and do some, continue to grow our platforms, continue to grow what we're doing. But some of the big worldwide domination plans, we're going to slow down on a little bit at the moment, just see what happens. But yeah, for me, it's continuing to push our long form strategy, continuing to raise the bar on quality, and build out the team, build out the reach, and see where this can really go. Our strapline is that we love construction and we want the whole world to love it too. The whole world to love it too is a pretty big, pretty high bar. So we've got a long way to go. I want to get this, a lot further ahead yet. I want everyone talking about construction because of our work.
Well, it's a lofty goal, but I really appreciate it. Yeah, we all have to be a little careful of what's going to happen in the next year. We all have to be a little more careful, tighten the belts a little bit. Although I will argue, especially given what you have with HS2 going on there, what we have with the infrastructure bill going on over here in the United States, what we have is a need of, supply chain, I guess, shoring up the supply chain, no matter where you are, no matter what country you're in. And the United States is investing in that as well. And I know that's happening in other countries. That's a huge economic opportunity. Construction underpins the economy in a way that I don't think we ourselves give it enough respect. That if you think about that $100 billion that's getting invested in that, a lot of it, yes, is going into materials, but a large chunk of it is going into the people. And that's in people's pockets. And those people turn around and buy things, and they need things, and they grow. And that's one of the things for me that as we go into 2023, especially, I want to get out there that, look, I was walking with a friend of mine who, has a purview on the economy, and he said, the problem with the economy is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if I tell you the economy's going to be bad, and then you think the economy's going to be bad, and then you tighten your belt, and then it goes on consumer, confidence, and then I'm not confident because you told me I shouldn't be confident because you told me it's coming. It's like, wait, where's the chicken and the egg? And I don't say go out and be completely bullish, but also, construction, y'all are the underpinning to a quick recovery. People hate this when I talk about it. And we all learned about what flattening the curve was. You can feel how you want to feel. That's like a political conversation. We don't do those. However, the idea of flattening a curve was an interesting thing, that construction economically could flatten that curve. And especially, you're seeing layoffs in other industries. We have a skills gap. We've created tools and techniques and ways to train. Upskilling is one of the biggest things the entire world's going to have to do over the next 5 years, given the automation that you're talking about and the replacement of certain jobs. Now's our chance, man. So from that perspective, I would love to see more of that from all of us, no matter who it is. So that was my little plug on exactly what you're talking about, and the future of what construction can really do if we can articulate its useful case.
Definitely. And I think that goal I have of wanting the whole world to love construction as much as I do is deliberately big, bold, and ambitious, and kind of obscenely ridiculous, because It needs to be, because you want somewhere that's out of reach, that acts as your North Star, that can't be achieved easily, that you are constantly pushing towards. And I think we all need that in life. We all need a goal that's slightly above what we're capable of doing in order to stretch ourselves and grow. And I think companies in particular really need that vision and that purpose, that direction they're always going for. It's amazing what it does to motivate people, I find. So yeah, even though times are tough, and you're right, we can talk ourselves into recessions, probably not helping on this podcast, but yeah, I think times are going to be a bit tougher, but I'm still going for that goal, even if we just have to go a different route or it takes a little bit longer.
No, I'm with you. I think we're being cautious, and cautious is okay. Move cautiously, but know that I think it's going to be short-lived, and I think we've got an opportunity to play a role in that short-lived area. So, hey, this has been awesome. I'm going to move us into the news, which we're going to do a little differently because, well, we've got you here today, and I'm just excited, man. That's where I wanted to go. So before we wrap this up, though, and talk about the news of the week, I needed to bring our ad of the week. Let's listen in on the second half of the conversation I had with Robert Shear, VP of Strategy and Business Development at OpenSpace. And I'm back with Robert Shear, VP of Strategy and Business Development for OpenSpace. There's a lot of reality capture out there, a lot of 360 products out there. What really sets OpenSpace apart?
From the start, we really focused on speed and simplicity. If you want your field teams to use stuff, it better be easy, it better be fast. And so our focus is 100% on making life easier for people to build stuff. All our advanced tech is wrapped in a really super simple experience. It just works the first time, every time. And it works at the speed of construction, which to us means getting things turned around in less than an hour, so that if you walk at 7 a.m, by 8 o'clock, you can share that with your team and you can coordinate work and kind of track issues.
Awesome. Well, so who is really the OpenSpace product focused at? Are you looking at trade contractors, general contractors, owners? Who's your real, users?
Yeah, it's really all of the above. I think we started focusing on GCs, and I'd say that's probably most of our users. But now we've got real strong adoption with trades. A lot of owners are writing it right into the spec for the project. With the GCs, it's a lot of capturing maybe every other day, once a week, to really provide that context for the team. Trades tend to use them a lot more actively. They're using them to track progress, track team productivity. And then owners, again, love to have that sort of oversight and visibility into the project. We've got 100,000 active users on the platform. We've got our users have captured over 10 billion square feet in over 70 countries. And more of our customers are moving from using OpenSpace on 1 or 2 projects to really using it across their whole project portfolio.
That's awesome. Where can they learn more about OpenSpace?
Yeah, I'd point them to 2 places. One is openspace.ai. Check it out, look around. If you want to learn more, there's request a demo buttons all over the place. Click that. The other one is we're going to be at a ton of trade shows and conferences, both sort of national ones like AU and Groundbreak, but also regional ones. So if you go to openspace.ai/events and see a calendar and, stop by and say hi.
All right. And we're back. So what I did is I was prepping for this call. I will be completely honest and transparent. I was super excited to have Fred on. I probably did more research for this one than I've done for any show in a long time. But that was awesome because it got me reinvigorated for construction. It got me reinvigorated for what we're talking about. So the first one I want to talk about, I want people from the US, especially our listeners, to understand that you guys cover global, and that includes us. And so this is New York's most hated highway is falling apart. So the BQE, which really touched me because Fred and I talked ahead of time. I have driven the BQE multiple times. I grew up in New Jersey. I've seen it. I know it. I know its problems. So I want to get your take a little bit on, what that article was about. It was about the BQE and it's falling apart. It's been around for a long time. 1935, the construction started on it. The idea was from before then. The interesting thing I caught out of it that I don't know was intended, or maybe it was, how incredible is that something that was built in 1935 is still putting 150,000 cars a day on in 2022.
It's incredible and scary at the same
That's
time,
wild.
isn't it? Like, it's amazing, but also you're thinking, this really needs some upgrading now. Like, we need to sort this out. I remember when we, I think that project is really emblematic of so many other things right now. And, you know, when we were putting this together and one of our content producers pitched it, they were like, yeah, it's a big deal in New York, but how do we get anyone outside New York to care about it? It's just a road in New York. But actually, for me, it really underlines the power of construction, the power of infrastructure to impact our cities, in this case, one of the world's biggest and most important cities. And frankly, the state of US infrastructure right now, and just how much work there is to do and how difficult that work is to do when you've got to keep the whole thing running. You've got to get all the local community groups on board, you've got to get funding, you've got to get politicians on board. It's a desperate situation. You've got to move as quick as you can. Yeah, it just speaks to so many things. I think, you know, contrast with all of that, infrastructure underpins so much of America's success, you know, from the highway interstate system to the first transcontinental railroad, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Hoover Dam. These are projects that made America. They enabled America. And I think that can be the case again. I think, you know, investing in infrastructure in the way that you guys are could open up a real new chapter. But some of the complexities and bureaucracy around it is, pretty scary. Saw that in the video.
I love the video, and I love that point. I honestly believe that the infrastructure bill should have been a trigger, along with the CHIPS Act here in the United States, that we can be the underpinning. The one thing I did think so heavily about is, and especially this came from the HS2 video, which is probably the next one we'll talk about, but for me was, you know, we might have introduced that rail system and we changed our world, our country with it, but y'all adopted it. And mass transit is such, I mean, yes, in New York City, you know, inner city, there's a lot of that, but mass transit from that perspective, especially what HS2 is, we just don't do that here in the United States. And that was an eye opener for me, even personally. Like, I struggle when I go to another country or when I go to even a city with it to use mass transit.
Yeah, and that's something that's really struck me because I've visited America a lot the last few years, and the subway in New York, I love the subway in New York. I use it all the time. It's super convenient. It's very much like the tube in London. It's just how you wouldn't dream in London of driving somewhere or walking somewhere that was further than you thought it was going to be. Like, it's just madness because the congestion's so bad. It was, you know, a couple of years ago before the congestion charge stuff started coming in, it was pretty bad. But most other cities in America, particularly LA, when I went to LA, everything is car. You can't go anywhere without getting an Uber or a cab. Like, it's crazy the amount of driving you guys do.
My eyes weren't opened to that until I really started listening to you boys talk about it and then watch the HS2 video about that project. And we've talked a little bit about it already today. And so that's one that's going to be in the show notes, guys. This was a longer form for you guys. Really eye-opening, killer graphics in it too. I don't know where you got those, if you created those or if you consumed them from somewhere, but that was cool. And just the way you went about that. I think Americans can listen to this and start to maybe have the aha light bulb moment about what mass transit might mean to our country.
Yeah, I think the most powerful part of that is the economic growth side of it. You know, yes, there is this we've got this very complicated plan to build a railway through England and up into the Midlands, which, you know, is controversial and difficult because we've got to chop down ancient woodland, we've got to go through villages, we've got to dig across farmland, we've got, you know, there's some terrible things happening. We've hit Roman burial grounds because that's our luck, and, you know, we've got to spend 3 years excavating those and all the rest of it. But at the end of it, there is this prize of economic growth, and there's this model around what it will do for our economy and our country, and how it will make people who feel left behind in the north better able to succeed and move forward with their lives and have a leg up like the rest of the country's had. So there's this really big underpinning story to it, which is really exciting. And I loved that story. There is so much detail to it. There is so much history, nuance, and so much has gone on. We actually started with a timeline. We started with mapping out what happened here. Whose idea was it to start with? Where did it come from? Why did Parliament take so long to sign it off? What's the opposition? How do you boil it down? You know, So it was really good fun, really good access. The graphics, one of the investments we made last year was hiring a full-time in-house motion graphics guy, Vince, and he's awesome. He models things out, scripts them, all of that stuff is his work. So yeah, just one of the investments we made that's really paying off in that video. So yeah, thanks for the feedback, Jeff.
No, I appreciate it, and particular to me, this hit about that economic, but it was the distribution of wealth. Wealth consistently, we talk about the distribution of wealth in our world consistently, and people try to forcefully distribute wealth in ways. And I'm not going to get into the political side of that thing. However, this is the type of thing that can distribute wealth in an equitable fashion through access, right? Like the economy, and I didn't even know this much about your country until this, is that there's so much recovery going on in the south and central of the UK, but in the north, it's not hitting there. And HS2 is a way to make and distribute that wealth more evenly, to make and distribute the urban areas, so you can connect rural to urban, and that makes housing more affordable. It also, I was listening in and I'm like, gosh, wouldn't it be cool if I lived outside of New York City somewhere in the countryside? Because there's so much countryside. And you think about where I grew up in New Jersey, there's so much countryside and nice areas, but then you're hours to get to work and you're commuting for 2 hours. And, yes, there's this movement of remote work. We can get into a total topic there, but human connection and being together is still so critical to the way that we do work and the way that we do that. So I thought the distribution of wealth thing was cool.
Yeah, and that's the power of high-speed rail. It brings cities and population centres closer together. So what was a 3-hour journey to London could suddenly become a 1-hour journey to London, hypothetically, on a high-speed train. And that's huge because suddenly you could work in London. You could get one of the jobs that you want to get in London, but you haven't got to live in London. You haven't got to pay the horrific rent in London and live with the cost of living down there. You can live elsewhere in the country and bring that wealth back with you. And that does loads of things. As you say, it takes pressure off the housing crisis in London, where we haven't got anywhere near enough affordable homes or places for people to live. And it helps boost other parts of the country, particularly the north. And we've got this thing in the UK at the minute where, as you say, London is pulling way ahead of the rest of the country and other areas are feeling left behind. You've got that in the US as well. You've got former industrialized areas that are feeling left behind, ignored, forgotten, and reaching out to them and bringing them with you and showing them their place in the new economy is a critical thing, not just for politics or the economy or construction, but for society, for the benefit and progression of a positive society that our kids are growing up in. That's important.
Yeah, you did a couple things to me there. The first one being, as soon as I saw that and I was thinking about high-speed rails here, if I could have that job, and most people have some sort of significant other or other person, whatever that might be. Now I've got that job in London that's feeding this. I can create a whole secondary economy here where shops, restaurants, the experiences that you have to have. And then that drives wealth from London or wealth from New York City or wealth from Los Angeles into these suburb areas where it can grow and flourish, and you build all these subsequent economies. That's kind of where I live in the mountains. We kind of experienced a hit with that. There's very little of us left here now because the centralized businesses to our economy are gone here. And the second to that was, dude, I drive 2.5 hours into the mountains coming out of the airport after every trip to go and to leave. And now all I can think about is how the hell can we put a high-speed rail in from Denver to here so I can do this in an hour and I can still love what I do and I could work for that hour.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. I'll campaign for it with you, Jeff. We'll campaign for the Mountain Railroad.
We need the Mountain Railway. It might be really, really hard. However, you just got me thinking about those things. So I appreciate that. And I think anybody who listens in, you're going to find that you can take these things and put them into perspective and learn from them. The last one I want to talk about, give you a shot for here is I'd been leading up to the construction story of the year 2022. I want you to talk about this one. This is an epic project that just blew my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I was really pleased these guys won. So if anyone doesn't know, we ran this campaign over this year, started in June, and then we got down to a shortlist, finalists, and announced the winner start of November. UK had 3 prime ministers during that time, so it's been quite a year over here in the UK. There's been a lot going on, but the organisation that won, the story that won, was the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor in the south of France, which is this incredible project that's really at the kind of bleeding edge between construction and science, where they are working to create the world's largest nuclear fusion reactor. 35 nations all coming together, all collaborating on different forms of contracts. They've got a common language. They've got all kinds of international initiatives to bring themselves together. They've got different countries making components that then get shipped to this site in the south of France. It is an extraordinary level of collaboration and partnership. But then, once you actually get to the site, the engineering, the extent of the engineering, the scale of the engineering that's going on down there is absolutely remarkable. Without going into the science of nuclear physics, this nuclear fusion is very different to nuclear fission. So nuclear fission is the stuff, the kind of conventional Homer Simpson nuclear power station. You don't want it to go wrong. It's like Chernobyl kind of thing. Nuclear fusion is a lot cleaner. It's to do with bringing atoms together rather than splitting them apart. I'll leave it at that. But basically, this machine's got to be able to withstand temperatures hotter than the surface or hotter than the core of our sun. And the cooling system around it is going to be colder than anywhere else in our solar system. So the guys were telling me, I'm stood in front of this machine. There's acres of concrete. There's scientists walking around. There's this massive assembly hall above us. It's immense. It was one of the best days ever. And they're saying that this machine they're building is going to be simultaneously both the hottest part of the hottest part of our solar system. It's going to be hotter than the sun. And the cooling system around it is going to be the coldest part of our solar system. It's going to be colder than any extent of our solar system anywhere in the world, anywhere in the solar system. And that just blew my mind. Like it's absolutely off the charts. The logistics, they were saying that these things have taken decades to build. And if they put them in wrong, there's no crane big enough in the world to lift them out again. So they have to destroy them and start again. Like it just puts every other project into, just dwarfs it. But for us, the reason it won Construction Story of the Year because in 2022, this year of all years, to see that many countries coming together and working together on something that was actually going to make the world better, that could fundamentally change how we generate energy on this planet, was incredibly inspiring. So that's why I won.
It was a beautiful winner, and I would love to say, hey, U.S. try to find and this was unique. 35 countries. I mean, people worry about 5 or 6 stakeholders collaborating on a regular basis. You're talking about 35 countries, multiple languages, language barriers. They built road systems to facilitate this. They're fabricating and offsite manufacturing things and delivering them and installing them. And like you said, it's a mix of construction and science and economy and clean power. It was epic, man. I was stoked to get a chance to read it, and I think other people, especially those listening in, will jump in and take a listen to it. I appreciate you guys for doing all of that. I know I made this show a lot about you and about the B1M, but I think this is the crew paying homage to you guys, because we've been inspiring each other back and forth, and this is what we need. I want you to get a chance, though. I know you've opened up the new channels, so let everybody know each channel that they can go to so they can connect with you after this, because I know people are going to want to listen in.
That's very kind of you, Jeff. This is like a shameless plug right now. So we're on YouTube. We're on the YouTube as the B1M with about 2.7 million subscribers, and as TomorrowsBuild with about 400k now, which is pretty cool. And then we're also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, always as the B1M or Fred Mills as well. I've got Fred Mills accounts as well. Just give myself a little plug there. But that's where we are. There's also the B1M.com. We've got the world's best construction podcast. There's too much of me on the internet, really. But if you like me, we've got something for you. Thanks for the shout out, Jeff. That's much appreciated, mate.
Hey.
As I said, we wouldn't be able to do what we've done without the path you've paved. So thanks, mate.
Hey man, that's the fun part of this. It really comes down to, and we had a chance to all meet in person at Groundbreak recently, and it reminded me that it's about the people, it's about you, it's about the team. You know, we have this unique opportunity. There's too much of me on the internet these days too, and I couldn't imagine having my face out there as much as you do, man. I'm somewhat fearful and also, I don't know, jealous isn't the word, but just like, wow, you've done a ton. And so we're all pulling it forward, man, and we should share in it, and we should share in pulling this rope, because we do work, you know, covering the world's most important industry. You know, we have an opportunity. I feel that way about it. I'm connected to the people, but it's getting to meet you in person. It's getting to meet, you know, Sasha Reed in person and our friends in person that remind us this is why we do it. It's for these connections.
100%. No, it's been fantastic to be a part of this, Jeff. And like, honestly, I feel privileged to be on the Content Crew podcast. This is awesome. Like, I've obviously known you for a long time, met you a couple of times before in US conferences, and to now be finally on your podcast. I'm sorry it took me so long. I have no excuse really, other than I have no excuse. So yeah, I'm very sorry. Thanks for having me on. It's been an absolute privilege.
No, it was the right time, right? Everything in its due time. When we ran into each other at Groundbreak, we decided now was the time. And it's great. And by the way, it's now, you know, my show now. So now you get to help me. So this has been awesome. I appreciate having you on. Anybody who's out there, I totally suggest that you go listen to Fred, connect with Fred, follow him, listen in. Fred, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in today to geek out for episode 338, our interview with Fred Mills. To read all of our news stories, learn more about apps, workflows, and hardware, and to listen to the show, visit thecontentcrew.com. This is the Content Crew signing out. Until next time, enjoy the ride and geek out.